Okay, so these three, the file students.txt contains data records of 21 students. Where is that file? Let's go here and fix it. Do we have lab 9? We have this student.txt. Let's open it. These are students. So we have ID, some kind of GPA, and then the name. All right. The ID, GPAs, and names in this order. Write a program that uses the heap sort method you developed in task 2 above to sort and print the students based on their GPA. Okay, so how can we do that? Now this heap sort, when it sorts, here, how does it sort? It's sort, based on this thing here. Now how can we make this happen? Because we don't need to do a lot of changes, because in the heap this takes any data type. So what we need to do basically is just prepare a data type that is going to be a student that handles all this, and in that student we should make it comparable to be able to compare two students between each other, and then these two students should be compared based on their GPA. So basically we don't have to do a lot. It's nothing have to do with the heap, obviously. You just need to just create another class to be, I'm going to call it student. That other class should be implements comparable, and then this implements all abstract methods. I just need to have this compared to, and I'm going to have that later. But for now, let me just, I need to have int ID, and then string name, and then double GPA. And actually the best practice is to encapsulate, to make them private, and then have the getters and setters if you want to, but let's just not pay attention about that for now. Let's make them public, all of them, just for the sake of simplicity. But obviously you need to have these to be private, not so. All of them and all of the exercises, we just don't do that just for simplicity, not because it's the best thing to do. So now what I have this, well, maybe just have a constructor so I can construct these objects one by one. So I just need to insert a constructor, and the one that initializes them all, because I would like to have them all, and that's all I'm going to do. And now the compare to, I just need to have these to compare between the two. How can I compare this? Well, basically, first of all, this object, I need to make sure that it is, I'm going to compare a student. Well, I can just make it again simpler. Student, the other student. So I'm just going to compare that to the other student. But this is still, I need to, it's not going to be able to compare until I do something like this. So this compare to, I need to make it it's the other object. Well, let's make it all, because I'm going to downcast this object to a student. Student, the other, is going to be student, this O. So whatever is going to be given to me, I'm just going to downcast it to a student, because this is an object that is going to be there, and the comparable just needs to implement an object, so I would like to implement that. So now this other student, I just need to say that if this dot GPA, because I just like to compare only the GPA, is equal to the other, the GPA, then if it's equal, I need to return 0, because that's what the compare to does. Else if this GPA is greater than the other dot GPA, then return 1. Else return -1. And now I'm returning, you see that the sign is 1 because it's going to be greater than 0, so that's the same direction. then that's now I'm having this student class that implements the comparable, and I need to just create. Now of course I cannot use this array. I will have to read, so let me just, I'm going to create a new main class. There's a main class somewhere, Java main class. This Java main class is just going to allow me to create a class with the main inside. So what's the name? I'm just going to call test student. So now in the test student, I just would like to read the students from the file, which is, I need to use scanner. I'm going to call it reader equal new scanner, and then the file is called student.txt. Is that the file name? I'm sorry? Why? No, we just read from this file. Why you put a new file? Because we'd like to read from here. We'd like to read from here, and okay, just maybe so we can see, we can print it. I would like you to see it. I'm just going to have a toString. I'm going to implement the toString so you can see the result basically of this. And yes, so it's just going to show me not like this, just maybe name and then ID between parentheses is something like, oops, no. So I'm just going to display just the name, and then between parentheses I'm going to put the ID, of course with the plus, and then the GPA is going to be just after that with the space and then GPA. So basically I'm just going to display the name between parentheses as GPA, the ID, and then the GPA next to it. So this is going just to show me in one element like the student. Now let me read a student. You remember how can I read a student? First of all, I need to try catch.
And by the rate next.
So
Use if the reader has next.
first of all, even this one I need to put it inside because maybe there's a problem in what I'm reading the file. So, and then the exception, I can just do something that displays the message, the e.getMessage. So this is just going to display if there's a message, an error, it's just going to show it. Now I need to have a while loop to see if it has next. And yeah, probably it should just have next line, so I can just read the whole line. Or is it easy for me to read the whole line? Well, I need to read if I read the whole line, I need just to split them again. So it's not really a good idea to read the whole line. I just read one by one. However, I know that the first one is going to be an end, so I'm not going to be Walaikum salam. I'm going to read an int, and int, this is the ID, and then I'm going to read the GPA is the second thing, right? In the file, if I'm opening the file, the first thing is the ID, then I have the GPA, then I have the name. But the name actually is kind of more than one word.
Can you ignore the name and jump?
I'm sorry?
Can you ignore the name and jump immediately to the second line?
No, I just would like to have the name as well. I can ignore, but I don't want to. Double, now the GPA is going to be reader dot next double. Or if I don't want to, actually let's try this. I don't know if it's going to work actually. And then the string, the name, is going to be reader dot next line. So I'm just looking if there's another word, and then if there's another word, I don't mind. I'm just going to read the int, read this, and then once I read them, I'm going to create a new student. Equal new student with all this information in it. And then what am I doing with this? I need to put it inside of a heap, or maybe inside of an array, and then we put it in the heap or whatever. So what do you want to do? The heap immediately? The heap is not going to be a fit. Okay, let's add it. Okay, but now I need to declare a heap. So let's have this min heap with the student. I'm going to create, okay, my heap equal new min heap, and I'm just going to initialize it with empty. There's nothing in it. And what's the problem?
I think the min heap construction doesn't have maybe because the student.
The comparable, I think it's probably because of the student. The comparable no, maybe that's my problem. By making it a student, it's going to be specific to that student. So I'm comparing this student with another one. I had to remove this because now it's not object, it's a student. And I hope now this is okay. So this one is complaining, so let's just remove it. So this, now we have this heap. Do you realize what I just did, or I just went too fast? I just put in the comparable because it was like this. When I don't put any data type, the default one is going to be object. Now it went into conflict in this class because the heap, when it's defined, it tells that the comparable is going to be of the same t that it extends. So now I had two different type of, I have this one, the student, that compares an object, and that's what's creating a conflict. It's not matching whatever was there. So by doing it this way, now I'm just having a student comparing another student, and this way now it's not a problem in here. Now that I have this, I just need to add this to the heap dot enqueue this new student. Or what I can do, I can take this and put it here, so I don't need to do this, right? And then I can even take this and put it here, and take this and put it here, but it's not going to work because the order is going to be the same. So anyways, but I don't want to go into that. So this is just to simplify. I don't know if it's worth it, just that's fine. So now that we have this, what is next thing to do?
Without the loop.
Now this is going to repeat as long as we have anything. We just keep going, and then
Compare the GPA.
well, compare the GPA. What do you mean? This when we enqueue.
The order.
When we enqueue, it's going to compare, because every time we enqueue now, we're doing the top-down approach. This top-down approach is going to make sure that every time after enqueuing, just it checks that it doesn't need to do any swapping or precode. So that's why, well, it's a min heap, but it's going to do the verification, because here we're going to compare. Because this enqueue, this heap does require some class that is comparable. So it's comparable based on what we decided. We decided to compare it to only based on the GPA. You had a question?
Yeah, for the scanner.
This one, yeah.
No, below the first line. It has. Let's gonna check if we have something in the line.
Something to read. Yes.
Okay. What about the others? Like the first one, read the first int, which is gonna be the ID. Then it's gonna like stop and check after, or
It's going to stop at the end. But I'm not sure though how this is going to work, because I have not tried it. And now there's two options. Either I read, if this works, that will be fine. But if it doesn't work, I'm just going to swap to read just the word, because the word is going to be just a number, but I need to convert it from a string to an int. That's what I would like to do later as a plan B if this doesn't work. This makes more sense because I don't need to convert it. I'm going to read immediately in int. But I hope it's going to work. You had something?
Line 25.
Yes.
I think it's gonna take all the line with the ID and the GBA, the next line.
Not really, because when you do the read next int, it's going to read and stop at this space. So when you read next, the next double is going to read and stop at this space. So and then when you read the line, it's going to read whatever from this space, it's going to read until the end of the line.
So it doesn't go to the next line.
No, it doesn't, because you read only that line and then it just stops. It finds that the line stops there, so it will stop there. So that's why this, I'm not scared of this part. I mean, this is not what is I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about these ones. But let's try. So this is our main. We just created the heap. We just read the whole thing. We should not forget to every time we open to close. Now there's something else that we can do. You see that it tells you there's something else, but I don't want to show that to you or to confuse you. But if you're curious, just click on it at home. You click on this and then this can be converted to something else, converted to try catch resource, which is a much shorter way to create and try and catch and to open and close, basically this one. So let's you can try that at home. Now we opened, we read, we filled the heap, we closed. Next thing to do, let's display it. I'd like to display it. I'm just going to do something like this to display it. So I just would like to display my heap. But why is it incompatible type? Oh, of course, because this printer prints only. Yeah. Because of now the others might take more space, might mess up their spacing. So, all right. So, too bad. But now that we have this, what we're going to do, we're just going to print the students. We're going to dequeue, so we can print them from the smallest to the largest. Okay, what we can do to, just if you'd like to see what is happening, I'm just going to say something so we can see before and after. Now I'm just going to see the list of students in the file, and I'm just going to print those here. So I'm just enqueuing the heap and then I'm printing them one by one, which is going to show me the student with his ID and then his GPA. Then when I'm done, the sorted list, maybe some separator, sorted list of students. And then I need to print them one by one. And I cannot do that unless I dequeue them one by one. How can I dequeue them one by one? Can I use the for each what? Students. But is this iterable? This heap, is it iterable? Student S in my heap. But, yeah, this is not an iterable. So I cannot use this for each thing. So for I0, I less than what? How can I know? Can I know the size?
Size.
Well, I have access to this heap again, which is an array list. Then I can get the size. Well, this is the heap. Okay, my heap. This, let me rename this to min heap. And inside this min heap, there's this heap. Sorry, this min heap, there's this heap. which is protected, but it's allowed to be, it's accessible. So I can just do this to access it to get the size. Now that I get the size,
Just dequeue.
I'm going to print out what I'm dequeuing. So this mean heap dot dequeue, because dequeue will return a student. It returns t, whatever it's in a student, and then I'm going to print it. All right, run. Well, because I'm running the wrong one,
Yeah.
right click in the project, properties, run, change this to now test students. Okay, let's run. Leave for the students in the file, null. What happened? Well, this didn't work as expected. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the next, and then I need to convert it to parse int, and I give it this.
The other one,
And the same thing with double, parse double. Next. So now I'm reading the words as a text, and then I'm parsing them. I hope that this is going to fix my problem. No. List of students in the file, nothing happens. It seems like it's didn't work. First of all, let's make sure that this is inside the main folder. So it's, yeah, it's there. So the other thing is, so it doesn't show us that there's a problem with the, like an exception or something about the file. So it seems like this has next probably is not returning what we'd like to do, because it's looking for a number, for a text maybe, and this has next finds a number, and probably this is what makes it realize, oh, this is not a word, because next is looking for a word, so it's not a word, so it's going to say that, okay, there's nothing. I'm going to replace this with next line. Is there next line to read? And if there's a line to read, then I'm going to do this. And maybe that was my problem initially, so I'm going to roll back just to learn if it's working. But still, no.
Because you have two separate steps, then you put it inside the...
What do you mean? Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click here just to see what is the problem. I'm going to debug that. And so it's going to start here. So reader has next line. Just let me see if this is true. This is true. So it gets inside actually. Let me. And it tries to read this next. If it reads the next, am I going to have something? Reader.next gives me what? Student.text. What does this mean? Now let me read this. And there's an exception. So it's reading something. Whatever was read is not what I expect it to be. So my problem is the file that I'm reading, I'm not reading in the same way that I'm expecting it to be read. Why? Allahu alam. But there was something that I can do to see what is happening. I'm just going to print out whatever I read. So string, I'm going to say like word. I don't know if it's a word, but it's like, and I'm going to put it here. So whatever I read, I put it there, and then I try to convert it. I know that this word is not going to, it's not a word. I just would like to be able to see it. It seems like it's this thing. Actually, I know the problem. I just realized that. Because you see, when you do this, that's not exactly what we expect it to happen. This is not how we open a file. Actually, I found, just didn't pay attention to that, so I'm going just to, yeah, I'm just going to return it to its state without its conversion, just to make sure that it works, and then later on, if it doesn't, we fix it. This is, I need to not open it this way. It's a new file. Then I specify the path. When I did this like that, the input was this. So it was just reading this text that I'm just doing. So it was just reading my students.txt, and that's what actually gave me the problem. Now let's run it, inshallah, much better. So now we read, you see we just have this has next, and then if this next int, where there is an int, so we read it, and then there's a double, we read it, and then there's the whole name, we read it. And then we displayed also something with that. Like there's some spaces in this. Maybe this way. From here to here, that was also included in the name. Anyway, this was also included. If I want to exclude it, I can do something, but I don't care about it for now. Now the name is going to be including this. This is whole considered to be a name. That's why I have this space there. Let me show you the output. So this is why I have these spaces here. Now this is the first name, this is the name complete, and then the ID, and then the GPA. So this is why I read what I read in the file. So the files, as you can see, they're not really sorted. Now when I display them, but I'm not displaying them all, which is weird.
Some GPA are equal.
What do you mean? They're the same? So why is this not?
Maybe it's skipped some.
So
Array is not very long.
now this is our heap, but this is our problem here. You know what is our problem? This is not correct. Why is it not correct? Because this changes as we dequeue.
Right.
When we dequeue, the size decreases. So that's why it's going to decrease until it reaches a number that is going to be the same number of what maybe something was remaining. So to solve that, int max, this is the maximum, or the size, I don't know, let's call it size, and I'm going to move the size here. Now this time the size is not going to change, so if whatever I read is whatever I'm going to display. Now that's fine. Is that okay? Anything? It's all sorted, right? All right. So that's